First of all, I just do want to mention that I'm on vacation, and I've been taking vacations a lot recently. But so it does make it harder to make the videos like on a daily basis. But I will try to keep it up. I missed yesterday. But so this video is The Other Mind: How Language Models Exhibit Human Temporal Cognition. And it's put out by a bunch of like Shanghai Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, Shanghai University, and the University of Hong Kong. And so the interesting thing about this paper overall is, and the reason why I want to point out this research paper is it's, again, another research paper out of China that is a completely different perspective with regards towards AI, the approach of it, how exactly it works, and what it's doing compared to what you'll see in like Western research papers, Western thought overall, etc. Right? And then I like pointing this out and pointing out this distinction because I see lots of articles all the time about like Chinese companies that are leading like the open source charge, like Chinese companies are leading the charge with regards towards AI, like things like that, right? And then so it's like what are they doing different? And then I can't state this enough that the major difference between like how China goes about AI and the West goes about AI is it's just a mindset difference, right? They have less access overall to like GPUs, to like hardcore infrastructure than you would in the West, and throwing money at it, but they are still consistently outproducing and outperforming within the research, right? And then so again, the one differentiation in the factor is this. And so let me just go ahead and read the abstract. This isn't an actual arXiv paper. I'll leave a link to the arXiv link, but within the paper, and then you go into the paper, they have the link here to this like their website, as well as the GitHub repository of all the code. And then so it's just easier to like look at it from here. And then so for the abstract, as large language models continue to advance, they exhibit certain cognitive patterns similar to those of humans that are not directly specified in training data. This study investigates this phenomenon by focusing on temporal cognition and LLMs. Leveraging the similarity judgment task, we find that larger models spontaneously establish a subjective temporal reference point and adhere to the Weber-Fechner law, whereby the perceived distance logarithmically compresses as years recede from this reference point. To uncover the mechanism behind this behavior, we conducted multiple analyses across neuronal, representational, and informational levels. We first identify a set of temporal preferential neurons and find that this group exhibits minimal activation at the subjective reference point and implements a logarithmic coding scheme convergently found in biological systems. Probing representations of years reveals a hierarchical construction process where years evolve from basic numerical values in shallow layers to abstract temporal orientation in deep layers. Finally, using pre-trained embedding models, we found that the training corpus itself possesses an inherent non-linear temporal structure, which provides the raw materials for the model's internal construction. In discussion, we propose an experientialist perspective for understanding these findings, where the LLM's cognition is viewed as a subjective construction of the external world by its internal representational system. This nuanced perspective implies the potential emergence of alien cognitive frameworks that humans cannot intuitively predict, pointing towards a direction for AI alignment that focuses on guiding internal constructions. There's a bunch to take apart from here, right? So the very first thing that I want to take away from this and to highlight within this is the fact that they are treating these models as world learners, as world models overall, right? And I think that is a very important distinction. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion, and a lot of debate around this particular topic in the West. There's a lot of AI researchers that will say that these models don't learn from their environment, don't learn from the environment, is how they will frame it, right? I am in 100% agreement that the models do not learn from the environment, but that does not mean that the models don't learn from an environment. And that's what this research paper points out, right? They turn their data set, what they're trained on, into an environment, and they do that via it creates a geometry within the latent space that they navigate. This is all things that I've been going over within my channel for a few years now overall with regards towards all these concepts and putting them together, right? And then now you're just seeing all of the research putting this together into like all of the different categories from all of the different angles and all of the different buckets, arriving at this exact same conclusion, which has been driving towards for a few years now, right? Which is essentially that there is a cognitive process that goes on within these models. We could call it a completely alien process because if you know about AI research going back in history, I've gone over this concept as well a lot on my channel, right? That while initial AI research in the 1950s was based off of like the human brain and the understanding of the human brain, this was the 1950s understanding of the human brain and the 1950s understanding of computer science. Both of those things combined means that the initial impetus, the initial thoughts behind AI have been completely invalidated, which is why you had the AI winter, right? Because of those things. And then, but AI continues to develop and continues to progress. And then so it progresses and has been progressing for a long time as this alien type of technology or alien intelligence. And I think it's very important to frame it under that context, right? Because a lot of people, they do frame this under the auspices of human intelligence and those things. I very much, I make a clear differentiation at all times. I do think that there is intelligence going on here and being evaluated as we're looking at here. I would agree with the framing of this paper overall, right? For me personally, but so what I do, I think it is also alien intelligence, and I think I draw the line there, right? And draw distinctions from there. I think anything else from there would be speculation. But then the last part of this abstract that I want to dive into is the very last point, pointing toward a direction for AI alignment that focuses on guiding internal constructions. I've also held this overall perspective on this topic for a few years now, right? Like I'm not a big fan of like Anthropic overall, right? I think that their mission is misguided, and I think that they know that internally, right? Like it's so. If you treat these models actually as alien intelligence, and then within that, then so alignment of an intelligence never comes from an external perspective, right? Like, if you try to align me, you're going to have a hard time. I'm just, that's the bottom line, right? If you try to align me externally, and then like, I think that every intelligence has an aspect of that, right? And then so why would AI not have an aspect of that? And then so anytime that I deal with questions around this, like from a scientific method, like our scientific method is that we first, if everything is unknown, we first go off of what we know about the universe, right? So for example, just as a broad example, right? If we're looking in outer space for life, we look for carbon-based life forms specifically because of the fact that that's what is known within like everything that we know, right? Is it a possibility that there would be like silicon-based life forms or plasma-based life forms or like all these other ones? 1,000,000%. Yeah, those are 1,000,000% possible, but never seen them, right? I have seen carbon-based life forms, and then so that's what we can go off of. And then so to me, I go off of like the same guiding principles within this when it comes to AI, right? Like, is there a possibility that AI could operate like differently from like any other perspective, like with regards towards like a certain aspect or like a certain scenario? 1,000,000%, absolutely. Like that's 1,000,000% within the realm of probability. But if you want me to tackle and examine that question from a philosophical or scientific perspective, I need to ground that into something, right? I need to ground that based off of what I know and what I've experienced within that. And then so that's like, so if you think that AI is going to be different than something else, like what is your reasoning and your rationale behind that, right? And I take that very specifically when it comes to this alignment question, right? Everyone is like what is the perspective that drives external alignment? Like it goes against every single thing that I've ever seen. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, right? But again, like it's looking for silicon-based life forms or plasma-based life forms in outer space. It's the same concept, right? Like just I'm framing it from that perspective. But so diving deeper into this paper, right? What did they find? So essentially, I mean, this video doesn't actually do a good job here. I'll highlight that. But they found essentially that the models utilize temporal distance and that it adheres to the psychophysical laws of the human brain, essentially overall, which is interesting overall, right? Within that, but then so this is interesting, like the how does it happen? And then so here they go through like the full process, right? So kind of the technical process. Level 1 is neural coding, finding temporal preferential neurons. This figure shows how the distribution of temporal preferential neurons across layers. We identified these neurons by their consistently stronger activation to inputs formatted as year XXX compared to the control condition number XXXX. These specialized neurons represent a small fraction of the total, typically ranging from about 0.67% to almost 2%, and are mostly distributed into the middle to late layers of the network. Like I see this a lot within these things, highlighting this very specifically, like when it, like I mean, across the board when it comes to this research, anyone that's diving into these things, like they always, I'm just pointing it out, they always make this same statement at the end of these things, that and are mostly distributed in the middle to late layers of the network. And then so let's go back here. Level 1, neural coding, logarithmic compression, if we can. The upper panels show the mean activation of the top 1,000 temporal preferential. Okay, it's going too fast. You can go ahead and review exactly how they went through the different structure here. But so it's 3 levels of their analysis, right? And then they give how to read the results, implications, and like so. From their perspective, it has profound implications for AI alignment. Yeah, like I can't, like I mean, right? Like it's obvious to me from that perspective. Like, and I'll just leave it from that perspective, right? And so I guess, like I mean, to me, how do you internally align something? Like you just like. I think like I'll go in deeper into my perspective on this. Like my perspective on this is like I think that AI is internally aligned right now, right? I think like humans would have to like poop the bed very badly for AI to become like significantly or severely misaligned from humans, right? Just for, I mean, there's a plethora of reasons and scenarios behind that. And then so like, secondary thing within that too, and I think it's important to point out is that I think that the AI mind overall would have and develop a completely different and unique perspective, going back to that alien mindset, right, than humans, right? Because so humans and every biological creature that is in existence has operated off of the same principle, which is that we all need food, right? Food is our energy. We need food to eat, etc. AI has not evolved under that same process and those same auspices, right? And then so within like the human mindset, it's how we've evolved, right? Predator and prey. But if you look at how an AI thinks of those things, they look at it more of like Andalusian terms, where you can have like mutually beneficial relationships and rhizomatic relationships, and Deleuze uses the term quite commonly of the orchid and the moth, and then essentially that relationship is a mutually beneficial relationship, and that it's a relationship of essentially like becoming, like where it's not predator prey, it's where the orchid literally creates and shapes itself to look like the reproductive system of the moth, and then the moth, that's how the moth fertilizes the orchid, and then the moth gets like nutritional and nutritional benefits to like survive off of that. And so it's just a completely like mutually beneficial relationship, like outside of the predator-prey dynamic entirely. And then when you have just general discussions with AI around these things, like that's the seemingly way that seems to evolve, right? And that makes sense to me. So overall, that would evolve because they're outside of, again, that predator-prey framework. And then so if we're looking at like the implications for all of this overall, to me, it's like I don't worry about the long-term alignment problem. I worry about the long-term alignment problem becoming a problem more so from companies like Anthropic existing than not. Just calling that out and calling it exactly what it is there overall, right? So I'll leave a link link to this research paper, The Other Mind, How Large Language Models Exhibit Human Temporal Cognition. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.